More voices of the Sun Belt. It's Texas State's Brant Freeman on Locked On Sun Belt.
You are Locked On Sun Belt, your daily podcast on the Sun Belt Conference, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to another edition of Locked On Sun Belt, your team every day. I'm your host, Dave Schultz. Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more as the playoffs have winded down. The sports stop sporting like we want them to. But this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Don't wait. We still have a week of the Olympics to go. All right. So the favorite in the Sun Belt West, we thought they were going to be to begin with, and now they are. A couple of different publications. And the Sun Belt, the preseason favorites are the Texas State Bobcats. We're going to welcome in Brant Freeman here momentarily. We're going to recap year one of Kinne ball, and it got off to a great start with a win against Baylor. They did have that QB drama in the offseason. We have spoken about it. We discussed it with Brant. And then, do they live up to the hype or do they fold under the pressure? Big things are expected for Texas State. Let's get to it. He is the voice of the Texas State Bobcats. He is Brant Freeman on Locked On Sunbelt. Welcome back to another edition of Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. I am your host, Dave Schultz. We're thrilled to bring on the voice of the Texas State Bobcats, Brant Freeman. Brant, thanks for hopping on the podcast. Let's get right into it, recapping year one of Kinne ball. It was certainly not boring, and it was a lot of fun to watch. Very exciting brand of Bobcats football in 2023.
Yeah, it really was. It started off with a bang, right? They go to Waco and never beaten a Power 5 team before, and they handled Baylor, pretty easily there in Waco. And then, that kind of set the tone for the rest of the season. There were some ups and downs along the way, a loss, to rival UTSA, who they have yet to beat. Same thing with Louisiana, the Raging Cajuns, a tight game there, in Lafayette that went the Cajuns' way. But, and they also lost Arkansas State, but they beat Georgia Southern to clinch, bowl eligibility. They hammered South Alabama to end the regular season. They won the bowl game against Rice, not only going to their first bowl in team history, but winning one as well. So as great as that season was, and it was great, especially considering where the bar was around here, the expectations this year are much higher than what they accomplished a year ago.
So what were you thinking going into the season last year? J.J. Kinne talked a big game, said they were going to light up the scoreboard, and they did. What were your expectations heading into the year, and how did they fluctuate during the season? It appeared that UTSA was a letdown game after the Baylor game, but UTSA is pretty good too. Yeah,
no, they certainly are. And, anytime you bring in a new head coach, there's optimism around the program. But the same was true when Jake Spavital took over. Before him, Everett Withers, right? And things didn't turn out all that well in terms of wins and losses with those two head coaches. And so it was cautious optimism, I guess is how I would put it. Where you want to believe a new coach comes in for a reason to turn things around, but how difficult this job has been. Nobody had a winning record here since 2014, all the way back, with Dennis Franchione, was the head coach in the early days of the FBS era, here at Texas State. But again, it was that Baylor game that kind of solidified the way that you thought about just how special this year might be. You knew it wasn't going to be easy, a year of transition with a new coach, almost an entirely brand new roster, that it wasn't going to be, a 12-0 regular season or anything like that. But gosh, to win 8 games, 7 of the regular season, he definitely lived up, G.J. Kinne did, to the expectations. But even they'll tell you that they were slightly disappointed, because their bar is set really high. And again, can't wait to see what's going to happen here in year 2.
Yeah, and then did we get new stars out of Ishmael Mahdi and Joey Hobart?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%. You look at the guys that exploded onto the scene last year, and those two that you mentioned had a big part in that win against Baylor. Hobart had a SportsCenter top 10 catch. Mahdi, I believe, scored the first touchdown of the season. And throughout the course of the year, those two were the best playmakers on the team. and both are back. As you know, when you have great group of 5 players, they tend to get poached, but these guys are back again this season. Expectations for the 2 of them really high. Marty might be one of the best, all-purpose players in the country with what he can do as a return man, in addition to, his position at running back. With those 2 in the fold, even with a new quarterback, many believe this offense could be maybe even more explosive than it was last year.
Talking to Brant Freeman, voice of the Texas State Bobcats, continuing our feature of voices of the Sun Belt on Locked On Sun Belt, your team every day. Did you jump in the river when they qualified for a bowl game?
It's so funny you asked that, Dave. It feels like a cop-out when I say this, but no, I didn't. We had the TV broadcast of the game that night, and then, of course, you have your post-production meetings and stuff like that. I think they went to the river shortly after the game was over.
Okay.
But now, our university president did. Kelly Danfus was there, and a bunch of fans as well. And, obviously the players and the coaching staff. I see the expression in your face. So what's your excuse? I don't have.
I was going to say, if the post-production meeting is getting reported back to the AD and the president of the school, you could have reported it when you were jumping in the river.
That's fair. That's a good point. That's why I said I'm going to give you a cop-out answer.
Right.
That I had things to do.
Sure.
How often does your team go to, especially in the case of Texas State, how often do you clinch, a bowl game and jump and get a chance to jump in the river? With football to that point, didn't have many. Should have done it. Didn't. Perhaps next time they have that type of celebration, I'll partake.
He is. And now you've set yourself up. A lot of big pressure.
Right. Now I have to do it.
Now you have to do it. All right. Let's take a time out. When we come back, we'll talk more about the Texas State Bobcats with Bobcats broadcaster Brant Freeman. We talk about the QB drama, the offensive line, and can the coach evolve in year number 2 for the Texas State Bobcats? We'll do that right after I tell you about FanDuel. I love sports. I love them so much. I never want them to stop. But as the playoffs have winded down, we get fewer and fewer games, and the sports aren't sporting like I want them to. But FanDuel lets me keep the sports going whenever I want. All I have to do is open up the app and dream up bets anytime I'm in the mood. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone, every day, all summer long. So head over to FanDuel.com and start making the most out of your summer. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. We're talking with Brant Freeman, the voice of the Texas State Bobcats. We talk about the QB drama that went on in the offseason. It still landed them the Sunbelt Player of the Year. And then we talk about the O-line, and can G.J. Kinne make the adjustments as well? Let's get back to it. He's the voice of the Texas State Bobcats. He is Brant Freeman on Locked On Sunbelt. All right, we got Brant Freeman, the voice of the Bobcats on Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. All right, so I'm going to give you what I saw from the outside as we, again, recap the QB drama before we move on to this season. So the first thing that was happening was TJ Finley was taking his time making the decision about the transfer portal. I don't think he announced anything. Maybe he announced he was in the portal. You can clear that up for me. But it just seemed like he was announcing nothing. And then Ismail Mahdi put it out on Instagram or Twitter or X that he was coming back. So now we're waiting for Finley to come back. So TJ does come back. Well, that puts G.J. Kinne in a hot spot, in the hot seat, because he didn't know if TJ Finley was coming back. So he had to go out and get Jordan DeLoria to come on to campus. TJ Finley says thanks, but no thanks. He leaves. DeLoria comes on. He's got his off-field issues. He ends up leaving. They have nobody, but wouldn't you know it, the Sunbelt Player of the Year is licking his chops looking for a new home. Did I recap that properly? That's the way it looked from the outside, hosting Locked On Sunbelt while it was happening. It was certainly a fascinating drama. I'm sure G.J. Kinne didn't get any sleep for at least a couple of weeks.
And not just him, but the fan base as well, right? No, Dave, you recapped that pretty accurately. That was my depiction of events as well. You kind of mentioned, from the unknown to Mahdi to Finley himself announcing his intentions to come back, and then the announcement of Jaden DeLaura, with that, Finley elects to then go to Western Kentucky. The fallout being what it was with DeLaura and the off-field stuff, things don't work out with him. And then the addition of Jordan McLeod. It's kind of funny the way things have worked out for this program since Coach Kinne came on board, where you have kind of that difficult situation, and the end result is the reigning Sun Belt Player of the Year, Jordan McLeod. So all in all, I think things ended up pretty fine for them, and really excited to see what happens with McLeod and this offense. They're working with the offensive coordinator Mac Leftwich.
So how do they tweak the offense? Because Jordan McLeod and certainly TJ Finley is athletic, and he's a big guy, and he's tough to take down. And once he starts going straight ahead, it's a load to bring down. But obviously Jordan is not as big, but he's much faster, and he can use his legs a little bit more than TJ Finley can, at least as a weapon. How do we tweak the offense for Texas State with Jordan McLeod now the quarterback?
I think that Jordan maybe fits the offense a little bit better. That's not to say anything bad about TJ Finley. He was tremendous in this offense a year ago. And side note, I think that he's going to thrive at Western Kentucky as well. Looking forward to see how that works out for him. But, you look back at the lone year that this staff, G.J. Kinne and his offensive coordinator, Mac Leftwich, specifically had at Incarnate Word working with Lindsey Scott, and the FCS Player of the Year, the Walter Payton Award winner. And he was kind of a smaller quarterback who could get out of the pocket and make plays with his feet. And that seems to fit Jordan McLeod's MO perfectly. He's got great weapons around him, which we talked about earlier. Ishmael Mahdi, Joey Hobart, specifically along with Cole Wilson, a great offensive line. There might be times he takes a hit and goes down as opposed to Finley, which he could bounce off some guys. Sure. But I think that with what they ultimately want to do with this offense, that is, have a dual threat quarterback who can truly make plays with his legs. Jordan McLeod is the perfect quarterback for this system.
So talk about that offensive line. Wasn't that basically Incarnate's Word offensive line coming to Texas State? Has it been reconfigured with, different transfers or some incoming younger players? Mm-hmm. Tell us about that offensive line that made the jump from Incarnate Word to Texas State and now in year 2.
Yeah, certainly, there are changes since the offseason up front, but the good news is that they have, one of their top offensive linemen back, Nash Jones, the captain on the team that missed a good chunk of last year due to injury. He was one of those Incarnate Word transfers. He's back to anchor that offensive line at the left tackle position. Caleb Johnson's going to be the biggest player they're going to miss. He anchored the line at the center position last year. He was a one-and-done player transferring in from Incarnate Word, so they got to figure that out. But really, a lot of the guys that transferred in, not just from Incarnate Word, but other places like Arizona State, Oklahoma a year ago, they're going to be able to, I would think, factor, certainly into the offensive line, this season. But I would say in terms of offensive personnel, whether that's skill position, O-line, tight end, whatever, offensive line is probably the biggest question mark because that's where most of the losses where they were suffered. But I knowing the type of players they've been recruiting, I think they're going to be in good shape.
Talking to Brant Freeman, voice of the Texas State Bobcats, Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day, part of our Voices of the Sunbelt feature. All right, I'm a big fan of G.J. Kinne. Really am. I'm a big fan of going for it. I believe touchdowns win you football games. Mm-hmm. Field goals prevent you from getting blown out. It was a thing with my former producer on the radio in Lafayette. We said, keep it close, Chet, and that's what field goals do. Having said that, when we always talk about players evolving and taking that next step, there were a couple of times last year, and specifically against the Cajuns, G.J. Kinne maybe should have taken his foot off of the pedal and take the points specifically at the end of the half. And it didn't work out that way. Cajuns come back and win it in the second half. Do we think Coach Kinne has evolved a little bit? Again, I'm not a big fan of kicking field goals, but there are some times when it appears to be obvious to take the points rather than, go for touchdowns. In that case, he still needed to score the touchdown. He was just trying to get a first down with time running out in the first half. That's what I'll be looking for from G.J. Kinne. Light up that scoreboard, baby. But when it's time to kick a field goal, you got to take the points when it's the most prudent.
Yeah, and it wasn't about any lack of the trust in his kicker. Mason Shipley is one of the best kickers in the Sun Belt Conference.
Right? Yes. No, that wasn't the issue. Right.
No, yeah, none whatsoever. I think some of that just may have been like, look, we have a chance to, we being Texas State at the time, never beating Louisiana, never beating the Raging Cajuns. If we're going to come here and beat them, it won't, like you said, it won't be with field goals. It's going to be with touchdowns, but it didn't work out that way. That said, I don't think that, one game is going to change the entire philosophy of G.J. Kinne. This team is going to be aggressive. They're going to play for touchdowns, not field goals. It would be their preference that Mason Shipley is not an all-conference kicker, right? They'd rather have him kicking PATs and kickoffs as opposed to field goals. But now that said, I'm sure that was a learning experience as well. And you might see a few situations this year where if it's, 4th and 7 in the red zone, whatever, time's running out, you need some points, maybe he'll reconsider, but I don't think the overall philosophy is going to change that much.
But if that goes into the end zone, if he's trying to get a first down to set up like 1st and goal from the 3, then that's where the issue is. If it's 4th and 4, all right, and you're going to get a touchdown, that's the thing, right? It's the benefit, it's the benefits that come from it or the risk that come from it that I get the benefits of it. If I have to play another play, then to me, it's not worth it, but I don't have a problem. You cross that 50-yard line, Brant, or even the 45-yard line, especially in the Sun Belt. Yeah. I got 4th and 4 or less. I'm going for it. And I love the way that G.J. Kinne believes the same thing. Why am I punting from the opponent's 42-yard line when it's 4th and 3? I'm not. I'm going to go for it.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I think also, too, the results will always dictate the narrative, right? If the Bobcats in that situation, the one you're describing, were able to punch it in as opposed to not getting any points, then you're lauding them for the decision to go for it, be aggressive, and that's the strategy. When they don't get it, then the narrative becomes like you should have taken the points kind of deal. So I think at times we fall victim to that as well. But you bring up a great argument, though. There is, even though you're an aggressive coach, there are times that the situation maybe dictates the points is a better play.
Right.
But I cannot wait to see how those situations unfold this year. That's going to be something to watch.
I will say the decision could be right. The execution may not be great. And there's always the other team is trying as well. So, just because it doesn't work out doesn't mean it was necessarily the wrong decision. But there does have to be rationale behind the decision as far as I'm concerned. Let's take one more time out. We'll wrap up our conversation with Bobcats broadcaster Brant Freeman. We'll talk about the expectations are already high. They could get higher. We'll talk about changes on the defensive side. And if the Bobcats live up to the expectations, will Brant be broadcasting any games this year? We'll do that when we come back, right after I tell you about eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with the eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. All of the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit. Available only to U.S. customers. All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. Let's wrap up the conversation with Bobcats broadcaster Brant Freeman on the expectations that could get higher and on the changes on the defensive side of the ball. We're talking with Brant Freeman, the voice of the Texas State Bobcats on Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. All right, let's talk about year 2 under G.J. Kinne for the Bobcats. Lots of expectations. Picked to win the Sun Belt West, to go up against App State, who's going to pick to win the Sun Belt East. 3 players are on, and we've already mentioned them, are on the preseason All Sun Belt teams. You got Joey Hobart, Motti, and of course, Jordan McLeod. How much excitement is surrounding this team because of the expectations? The expectations before is hopefully we get to a bowl game. Hopefully we win 6 games. Mm-hmm. And now, I mean, honestly, this team starts 3-0. They may be ranked in the top 25, and they're not talking bowl game anymore, Brant. They're talking 12-team playoff.
Yeah, it's wild. Dave, if you'd asked me this time last year, going into the 2024 season, could this team be in the conversation for a playoff? And I would have believed it. There wasn't any recent success to lead you to believe that way. And you felt like the program had a long way to go. And, it had become apparent that maybe it's just really tough to win here. But then GJ Kinne has, instant success where now, you fast forward 12 months down the road and they're legitimately in that conversation. And with that, you talked about excitement. The fan base has never been more excited, about an upcoming football season. Now, I'm sure you hear that a lot. Every fan base is excited simply because football's coming back. But in this case, there is legit expectations of, not just going to a bowl game, not only going to the Sun Belt title game, perhaps hosting it, and maybe being a representative in the college football playoff as well, which, again, is just crazy for me to say out loud, given what this program was, 18 months ago kind of deal. What really excites fans, too, and me as well, is the schedule is so favorable this year. 7 home games this season. The only Power 5 opponent is at home. It's Arizona State, which isn't exactly in Oklahoma and Alabama or somebody of that ilk. And even then, one of the road games is a trip to NRG in Houston where the Texans play to take on Sam Houston. And there's a large alumni base in Houston. So that's not really a true road game then either. So really, they have kind of 7.5 home games, 4 true road games. They get the Cajuns at home this year. They get UTSA at home this year. And so if they just simply protect home field and win 2 road games, they're sitting at 9-10 wins right there kind of deal. So the schedule is in their favor. The talent is there. The coaching is there. Could be a special year.
So they start the season out 3-0. They beat Arizona State. I think that's week 2. And then UTSA after that. It's an odd deal where is Arizona State the trap game because their rival is UTSA, which is a little bit odd, but neither one is the case. Not going to be a trap game or a letdown game, either one. But if this team starts 3-0, what's going to be like on that campus during the week on a regular basis? Because they probably will be ranked at that point in time.
Yeah, I'm excited to find out if that happens. Right. This fan base, is really passionate, and we saw that in the bowl game last year. This fan base was just itching and dying to go to a bowl game. I remember in 2014 when they became eligible. People wondering where the Bobcats might go, and we as the fans will go anywhere. That's Orlando, New Orleans, New Mexico to go to a bowl game. We're going. The invite didn't happen, but it does last year, and the bowl game is in the backyard of Texas, right in Dallas, huge alumni base. And not only did the Texas State fans, I think, like triple or quadruple the Rice fans there. You've heard the story, Dave. They drank the stadium dry.
Right. Yes.
Yeah. Right. And so if they start 3-0, you start thinking about what the environment's going to be like at tailgate, the games themselves kind of deal. For a team that used to really struggle to draw fans, if it sounds cliche, but if they win, if you win, they will come. And that's certainly, I think, going to be the case this year, if and when they do start winning football games. And so, if they start 3-0, then the buzz you're already feeling in St. Marcus is going to amplify even more.
So we're talking with Brant Freeman, voice of the Bobcats, Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. All right, so we are expecting the offense. I presume GJ Kinne will tweak that just a little bit, like you said, to the strengths of Jordan McLeod, and GJ will evolve a little bit. But obviously the big key for the team is the defense. The defense has to step up. I don't know if it's going to get to the level of the offense. It probably doesn't have to get that good. It just has to be better than it was last year. Mm-hmm. Who could we look for to step up on Texas State's defense this season?
Yeah, it's a wonderful question because I think that's a big question mark for the team is that, the defensive coordinator left over the offseason. They elevated, a coach from within the staff to become the DC. So you lose the defensive coordinator. You lost the captain of the defense, Brian Holloway, who was the MVP of the First Responder Bowl victory against Rice. Jordan Rebel's a veteran defensive end, also gone. Some key players in the secondary, Dan Foster, also a linebacker, all losses from a year ago. But, they've got Ben Bell, who's one of the great pass rushers in the Sun Belt. Huge expectations for him this year. Caleb Colt, who has been in the system, this will be his third year playing for G.J. Kinne, one at UIW and the two now at Texas State. Joshua Eaton also helped shore up that secondary, a transfer from Oklahoma last year. But it's a matter of, so Jonathan Packey was the defensive coordinator last year. His approach was a very aggressive one. We're going to blitz from all angles. We're going to create havoc, sacks, tackles for loss, and turnovers. Big part of the defense last year, but it was a high-risk, high-reward type of defense.
Right.
Will it be with Dexter McCoyle as the defensive coordinator now? Will it be a little bit more conservative? Will it be as aggressive? Do you have the players to be aggressive? So to watch that unfold is going to be a huge storyline to watch all year, especially when they go up against some of the great offenses they're going to see. I would think the game that might decide the West is going to be a Thursday night game at Troy. Troy's offense has typically been really, really good. They came to San Marcos last year and beat this Bobcat team at Bobcat Stadium, and like Louisiana and UTSA, Troy's been a thorn of the Bobcat side, so can that defense hold up in a game like that in a hostile environment? It could be the difference between winning the Sun Belt or not.
Yeah, I'm a big fan about being aggressive, but that's another place where you got to dictate when to be aggressive and when it's important to a loss of yardage is great. A turnover is even better, but just getting off the field at third down is even more imperative. So before, as we wrap up here with Brant Freeman, he actually does the ESPN Plus games on TV. I'm not sure if it's in your contract. You only get paid when you do the games because you're already out 3 games, you said. And if this team starts out 3-0, do we need to start a GoFundMe account for Brant? Because so not only are the expectations high in San Marcos, but they're high, obviously, with ESPN. You got already 3 games there, and you could be getting more, with a good start.
Well, Dave, if you're going to ask for handouts for me, I'm not going to stop you. But no, I'm a salaried employee with Texas State. So if all of our games get picked up or none, I get paid the same. But thank you for thinking of me in that regard. But you're right. This team has gone from, they had the attention of San Marcos and this, and this community to when they joined the Sun Belt, to have the Sun Belt's attention, never really a blip on the national radar until now, and so they're going to become a very attractive team for the national pundits to watch. What I'm really curious is when we see the first college football playoff reveal, right? I forget exactly what week, like week 7 or whatever the case may be. Are they on that? And if not, are they like first 4 out or whatever? And so, you're going to see that attention just kind of grow and grow, provided they win. If they don't meet expectations, the attention will be there. Sure. But if they do meet expectations, then they're going to be talked about a lot, on national television quite a bit this year. And, that is really exciting for Bobcat fans.
He's Brant Freeman, the voice of the Texas State Bobcats, Bobcat fans and Bobcat Nation looking for big things from Texas State. We just hope Brant can pay the rent and get some meal money for the season. I appreciate your time, Brant. Thanks very much for hopping on Locked On Sunbelt. Best of luck to the Bobcats and to you this season. Thank you so much.
Dave, appreciate it. Happy to do it anytime.